Hello, Year 7. This is Mr. Azzopardi with another lesson in this unit about whether there are good reasons to believe in God. And this one is about miracles. So this is your title. I just want you to write this down. How can I evaluate whether the miracles at Lourdes prove that there is a God? Can you write that title down? You will also need for this this lesson, as well as your book or some paper to write in, you'll also need the worksheet, which I'm going to attach and send to you on Teams. That worksheet, it'd be good if you can download it to use for the lesson. What was I going to say? Yeah, if you can't download it or print it out, then best thing to do would be just to have a look at it on the screen and make sure you've got all the questions written down so that you can just answer the questions on the worksheet on some paper. Okay, let's look at this lesson then. So let's start by looking at what a miracle is before we look at this place called Lourdes. There's no writing for this task. I just want you to listen to what I say and have a think about it. So here's a definition of a miracle. A miracle is a positive event which goes against the laws of nature. So it's got to be good. We don't call bad things miracles. And it's got to break the laws of nature. It's not just got to be unlikely, but it's got to be kind of impossible according to the normal laws of nature. Now have a look at these 5 examples. Are they miracles or not? That's the question. You've got to think about it. Are they miracles or not? I'm not asking did they really happen or not. I'm saying if they happened. So it's another question. We're going to look at that later, whether if they did happen or not. But if they did happen, if something like this happened, would it be a miracle? So Jesus walked on water. Well, I'll let you read through them. So just read through them and think which ones are miracles, which are not. You can pause it, take a couple of minutes to read through them and think, can you decide whether they're all miracles or not? And we'll feedback. Okay, let's go through them one by one, see if they're miracles or not. Jesus walked on water. Well, if he did walk on water, if that was true, then it would be a miracle because it's against the laws of nature. A man with cancer is told he has weeks to survive. He prays to God for help and makes a full recovery. Well, this one, usually if we do discuss this in class, there's a lot of disagreement about this because some people would say, well, maybe it was a misdiagnosis. Maybe the doctor said that was what was likely to happen, but it was just a very unlikely recovery. However, if the doctor was completely 100% definite and then he made a recovery, I suppose that would be a miracle. A poor man wins £46 million on the lottery. Well, no, not a miracle. It's unlikely to win that much on the lottery. It's very rare, but it can happen. You drop your pen and instead of falling down, it floats up. Well, this is another one I think people debate about because, yes, it goes against the laws of nature, but is it a miracle? I mean, is it actually a positive event? Would people be pleased if their pen started floating up? I don't know. Number 5. I was going to get on an aeroplane that crashed, but I got stuck in traffic and missed my flight. Well, no, not a miracle. All that happened was it was just a coincidence. It's not against the laws of nature to get stuck in traffic. It's a lucky coincidence that then you missed this flight and you stayed alive, but not a miracle. Okay. Now, why are miracles important to us? Well, we're trying to look at whether there are good reasons to believe in God. Many theists, that are people who believe in God, think that miracles give us good proof that God exists. They think miracles are proof that there's a God. They say that only God is powerful enough to perform miracles. So God is supposed to be omnipotent. That means all-powerful. And because he's omnipotent, he's supposed to be able to perform miracles. So the idea is that when a miracle happens, miracles are such amazing things, they could only be performed by an all-powerful person, and only God is all-powerful. So the idea is, if there are miracles, there must be God. But the question is, do miracles really happen? That's what we're going to look at today. Are they real? Can we believe in stories of miracles? There are lots of stories in different parts of the world of miracles happening, but are any of them real? Are people lying? Are people mistaken? Or is it really happening? You don't need to write anything down at this stage. Okay, let's just look at 2 philosophers again. I'm just going to talk you through some stuff right now. You don't need to write anything down. Philosophers disagree about whether miracles are real. They have different points of view. Of course, there's lots of stories about miracles. And of course, the Bible, there's lots of miracles. And lots of holy books, there's miracles. Around the world, people have reported miracles. But can we believe those stories? Well, here's two philosophers with two different points of view. Let's look at the first one. This guy on the left-hand side is called Richard Swinburne. He says, my name is Richard Swinburne, and I believe... we're going to say, how would they react if they heard someone saying, I saw a man walking on water? If you went up to these two philosophers and said, I saw a man walking on water, we're going to look at how they would react. He says, my name is Richard Swinburne, and I believe you. I think that you should always believe the things people say unless you have good reasons to think they are lying. So Richard Swinburne says, well, he takes the example like this. He says, imagine in everyday life if someone came up to you and said, oh, I saw a dog walking along the street today. Now, would you say to them, prove it? Bring me a photo. I need a video to show that there was a dog there. Bring me the dog and show it to me. No, most of the time we just believe what people tell us. Unless we know that that person is a known liar, unless we know that we've got specific evidence to show that they're wrong and they're lying, we believe people. So Richard Swinburne says, look, in our life, we believe what people tell us unless we know they're lying. And he says, well, therefore, because if we believe people in everyday life, we should believe people when it comes to miracles. If someone says, I saw a miracle yesterday, unless you have a specific reason to think that that person's a liar, then you should believe them. Now, is that a good point of view? That's what I want you to think. Is that right? Now, some people would say that was wrong for this reason. Some people would say, well, hold on. If someone told me they saw a dog walking along the road, well, that's quite a normal thing. So I've got no reason to think they're lying then. If someone said they saw someone walking on water, well, that's a bit of a different thing. Maybe the fact that someone walking on water is so strange and so unusual and so hard to believe, that means we shouldn't just accept it. We accept normal things, but perhaps if someone tells us they see something really odd or strange, we should need more proof than just someone saying it. So that's how you could criticise Richard Swinburne. The person on the right is David Hume. He did not believe in miracles. He says, my name is David Hume and I don't believe you. He doesn't believe the man who says, I saw someone walking on water. All the evidence I have makes me think that no one can walk on water. Why should I believe you when all the evidence tells me you are wrong? So David Hume says, look, weigh it up. One person says they saw someone walk on water. But think about the number of times people have tried to put their foot in water in the past. Every time someone goes to the swimming pool and they go into the water, they put their foot through. Every time someone goes into the sea, they put their foot through. Every time someone goes into a lake, they put their foot through, unless it's frozen over. So he says, look, there's billions and billions of pieces of evidence that people cannot walk on water. If we balance that against one person saying that they've walked on water, surely it's much more likely that the billions of pieces of evidence that you can't walk on water are true, and that one person is either lying or he made a mistake, than all the evidence is not true and people can walk on water. So he says, you don't believe me. Now, is that a good argument? Well, interestingly, some people have criticised David Hume because some people have said, well, hold on, just because something's never happened before, it doesn't mean it won't happen in the future. It might be that usually people can't walk on water, but in exceptional circumstances, one person could. So David Hume's argument is quite interesting, and maybe it makes us think, well, we really should investigate further. We can't just accept someone's word for it they can walk on water, because all the evidence we have says they don't. But just because something's never happened before, that doesn't actually prove that it can't happen in the future. Okay, this is all a bit of background. We're going to start doing a bit of written work now. What is Lourdes? Can you put that question down on your piece of paper? What is Lourdes? You may have heard of Lourdes. You may not have heard of Lourdes. And the first thing I want you to do is to watch this YouTube link. I will put the link underneath the video. So I want you to pause this video, go and watch this link, and just write down anything the link tells you about Lourdes, this place. So just pause this video now, watch the link, write down anything you find out, and then come back to the video. Okay, you should have found out and written down some things about Lourdes. I'm going to put some extra things on the screen. If there's anything else anything you need to add from the screen, just write it down underneath. Okay, Lourdes is a small town in the south of France. Many Christians go there hoping for a miracle. Huge numbers, in fact, of people visit Lourdes every day. They believe that people who are ill or disabled, well, there's a bit of a typo there. I'm sorry. They believe that if people who are ill or disabled bathe in the spring water at Lourdes, they may be miraculously cured. So if you've got an illness or a disability and you go into the water there, you can be miraculously cured. People always also drink that water. Not the same. People always ask me this question. It's not the same water that people bathe in that they drink. Different parts of the water. Some is drunk and some is bathed in. And the idea is it can bring a cure. There is an organisation there called the Lourdes Medical Bureau, which tests whether these miracles are real. So there's a group of doctors and scientists there, and they test whether miracles are real. They say that they have found, I believe it's now 68 cases of real miracles that have happened. 68 cases of miracles that they say they have proved. Now you might say, well, how can they prove them? Well, we're going to look at that in a moment. So make sure you've got any extra information written down, and we're going to go on to our worksheet where we look at Lourdes in more depth. Okay, this is the worksheet. So all you're going to do is watch the rest of the video and then fill in this worksheet based on the information I tell you. In lessons, we would usually do this as an information hunt, where the information would be around the room and you would find it. So here's the things you're going to do. Describe the history of Lourdes. Explain one example of a miracle at Lourdes. I should really say one example of a miracle that people say has happened at Lourdes, because you might not believe in them. But one example of a miracle that people say happened at Lourdes. I'm going to give you two. You just need to write down one. Next question, how does the Lourdes Medical Bureau test miracles at Lourdes? Then, why do some people believe in miracles at Lourdes? Why do some people not believe in miracles at Lourdes? And the last bit is, do you think these miracles are real? Do they really happen? Okay, let's go through the information. You should have the worksheet, or at least the questions from the worksheet in front of you, and answer them as we go through. Remember, this is a video, so you can pause it anytime you want to write down the information. Okay, Lourdes became famous in 1858 because of a 14-year-old girl who lived there called Bernadette Soubirous. On the 11th of February 1858, Bernadette claimed that Mary, that's Jesus' mother, had appeared before her in a cave just outside the town. Obviously a strange thing because Mary had been dead for almost 2,000 years. Mary appeared to Bernadette 18 more times. She told Bernadette to build a church at Lourdes. She also told Bernadette that people should drink and bathe in the natural spring water that comes out of the ground at Lourdes. So there's a natural water spring there that comes out of the ground. So that is how Lourdes became a place where people visited. Bernadette said that she was visited by Jesus' mother, Mary. So that in itself would be a miracle because it's against the laws of nature for someone to appear all that time after they died. Okay, let's look at some case studies. Famous miracles at Lourdes. So you need to explain one of these miracles. I'm going to go through two. In 1963, a 23-year-old Italian man called Vittorio Micheli visited Lourdes with a tumour that paralysed his legs. After bathing in the waters at Lourdes, he was able to walk and doctors found his tumour had gone. In 1970, a 41-year-old Frenchman called Serge Perrin visited Lourdes. He was almost blind and needed a wheelchair. After visiting Lourdes, he was able to walk and see again. So his sight returned and he could walk again. So interesting cases. Remember to pause if you need to as we go through. I'm going through it quite quickly. What is the Lourdes Medical Bureau? The Lourdes Medical Bureau is a group of doctors and scientists who study miracle cures at Lourdes. They are trying to decide if the miracles are real or not. To decide if miracles are real, the doctors study the person's medical history and talk to them about the miracle. They only say that the miracle is real if these three things are true. 1. The cure happened straight away. 2. There is no medical explanation of how the person was cured. So it has to happen straight away. It can't be that they go to Lourdes and then they get better 2 weeks later. It has to happen straight away. There has to be no medical explanation. So it has to be that the doctors can't say, oh, well, it could have been cured in a different way. It could have been not a miracle. The cure is permanent. That means the person doesn't become ill a few days later. The idea about that bit is to say, well, sometimes going to a place like Lourdes, because people think they might get better, it might make them feel better. So someone might have a terrible cough or terrible find it difficult walking or something. Now they might not have those things for a few days after visiting Lourdes, just because sometimes it's mind over matter. People say your you feel like you're going to get better, and so you actually feel better. But then that doesn't last, you see. A week or so later, they might be ill again. So it has to be a permanent cure. The person doesn't get ill again later. They stay better. That's the Lord's Medical Bureau. Okay, why would people believe in miracles? Well, Peter Vardy, who's a philosopher, says that we should believe in miracles at Lourdes because they have been tested by scientists at the Lord's Medical Bureau. We've just seen that. They've been tested. This means there is actual evidence that they really happened. Second one, Richard Swinburne, who we looked at earlier, says that in our everyday life, we believe that what people are saying unless we have good reasons to think they are lying. He says we should treat people who say they've experienced miracles in the same way. Unless we have proof they are not telling the truth, we should believe what they say. So we went through that before, didn't we? If someone tells you something, I don't know, I saw a guy driving a pink car today, you wouldn't say, prove it. You'd say, oh, right, fine. You'd accept it. Why don't we do the same when it comes to miracles? When someone says, I saw someone walking on water, or I saw someone being healed at Lourdes, why don't we just accept it, accept what they say? So make sure you've explained both of those ideas for why to believe. What about some arguments against believing in miracles? Well, the first one is one we've seen, David Hume. David Hume said we should not believe in miracles. He said, we know from experience that the laws of nature cannot be broken. We have never seen someone fly, walk on water, or be magically healed of a terrible disease. All our evidence suggests those things can't happen. Because of this, he says, we should not believe people who say that miracles have happened. Another reason not to believe, the atheist philosopher is a non-believer, doesn't believe in God. Carl Sagan said extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. That's a famous quote from him. By this, he meant that in order to believe in amazing things like miracles, we need very good evidence. We do not have videos or photographs which show miracles happening at Lourdes. Should we believe them? Should we believe they've happened just because people say they have seen them? Now, you might come back from Carl Sagan and say, well, hold on, but doesn't the Lord's Medical Bureau have evidence? They've studied these things directly. That's an interesting one. I wonder what Carl Sagan would say about that. I think he might want to see that evidence and say, does he agree that that's really good evidence? Okay, make sure you have both ideas down.